Welcome everybody to What's New in QuickBooks 2014 for You. My name is Joe Woodard and I'll be your presenter for today's course. This course covers the new features in QuickBooks 2014 Pro and Premier. If you want to learn about the new features in QuickBooks Accountant, you can watch the other on-demand webinar that's available at intuitacademy.com/what's new. Now, this presentation is brought to you by Intuit Academy and Scaling New Heights. Scaling New Heights has partnered with Intuit to provide training to accounting professionals throughout the world, including this webinar today. And I, your presenter, am the CEO of Woodard Consulting Group, one of the largest pro-advisor practices in the country. I am the host of the Scaling New Heights Conference, after which the Scaling New Heights Corporation is named. It's a special conference for QuickBooks Pro Advisors that takes place each year in June. This year, the conference will be in San Antonio, Texas. I'm also the host of the nation's largest independent network of QuickBooks Pro Advisors called National Advisor Network, and I was honored in 2012 by Accounting Today as one of the top 100 most influential people in the accounting industry. If you want to learn more about the training at Intuit Academy, you can go to www.intuitacademy.com. Now, there are a couple of subpages there. If you do /what's new, it'll take you to the webinar series and a lot of even localized training about QuickBooks 2014 happening in the fall of 13. If you go to intuitacademy.com/materials, you can get the handout that goes along with today's course, as well as a wide range of other resources. If you go to www.scalingnewheights.com, you can see additional on-demand and free recorded webinars, and we add to those regularly. You can also learn more about the upcoming conference in June in San Antonio. Now, what are we going to cover today? There are going to be demonstrations about the new features in QuickBooks 2014. A comprehensive guide to the webinar on numerous topics is available at intuitacademy.com/materials, so there's no need to take a lot of notes or write a lot down. The guide is quite extensive, and you can come back to this recording as many times as you like over the coming months. So relax, have fun in this class, and just enjoy learning about the new features of QuickBooks 2014. The learning objectives today are to identify new features that will help your clients work more efficiently in their files, understand the new and improved features in QuickBooks 2014, and evaluate and recommend the right software for your clients. You can know if your client would benefit from upgrading, if you would benefit from your client upgrading, which gets a lot into the QuickBooks What's New for You in 2014. But the overall goal today is to help you learn and use QuickBooks more efficiently and therefore work more efficiently with your clients who use QuickBooks. All right, what's on the agenda? We're going to cover, this is a comprehensive course, so we'll at least mention in a bullet in a PowerPoint slide all of the new and improved features in QuickBooks 2014. And then we're going to drill down, as time allows, on those that have the most impact for you and your clients. Record bounced checks with ease. There's now an automated wizard for that. There's a new income tracker, which is similar, if you're familiar with QuickBooks Online, to the income tracker in that product. There's email tracking, templates and attachments, improvements there. Alerts and reminders are now showing up on the icon bar. Adding bill credits to the bill payment stubs. We're going to talk about that one a little bit. There's an option to register the product when you install it. There's a login there. We're going to talk about it. Sales rep to job records now can be assigned, and you can run reports filtering by sales rep and job status. The left icon bar now has additional features and color and customization, and bank feeds, one of the flagship features in QuickBooks Desktop 2014. We're going to be drilling down on that one as well. You can sort and resize the billable time and costs in the billable time and costs window in QuickBooks Premier. And you can create email templates and include attachments, which is new, believe it or not. Creating attachments isn't new, but the enhancements around them will show you. More reports on the transaction toolbar now. That's for some ease of access for your clients who are not as familiar with the reports drop-down menu. You can define the width and height for printed reports. Copy and paste rows on forms. The improved Payroll Center, we'll show that to you too as well, and the improved interface of my company information. There's an Enable Disable Collection Center option, which has a direct relationship with the income tracker, and QuickBooks Plus offerings. We're going to talk about those. So it's going to be a very packed time together. Let's get right into it with recording bounced checks with ease. Now, if you think about what your clients have to do when they record a bounce check, there are a lot of steps in here. We as accounting professionals, we know how to record those steps, but your clients don't necessarily know how to work all the debits and credits and make everything work correctly. So QuickBooks now handles this process for them at the touch of a button. Let's take a look at how this works in the product. I'm going to go to a payment, a received payment. Obviously, it only works if the received payment was a check payment because only a check can bounce. An ACH can't bounce, and this feature is not designed to work with chargebacks on credit cards. It's just a bounced check feature. So I've got a check here, a check payment here. We're going to say that this bounced. So before, I would have had to go through several steps. I would have had to somehow take the cash from this check, this $7,633.28, out of my bank account. Then I would have had to record the bank service charge that the bank charged me. I would have had to charge my client the fee that I charge my client for the bounced check, and somehow reinstate the original receivable so that all of my aging and all of my collections process works correctly. A lot of steps for the client to manage. But now your clients can just click Record Bounced Check, put in whatever bank fee the bank charges them. They can class that if they want to. Then they can put in whatever fee they charge the client. If they put in a date, in this case 12/15/2018 is today, because that's the sample data file today. We're going to be using it for all of our examples. And click Next. They can get a summary of what's going to happen in their system, and then click Finish. All of those entries that I described have now been handled by the system, and QuickBooks has reinstated all of the original aging so that the collections reports and AR aging reports work accurately. It's a lot to happen in one button, and if you're like me as an accountant, I don't want to just take that at face value. I want to drill down and see exactly what kind of an impact that had on the general ledger. So let's take a look. First, QuickBooks created a brand new journal entry that debits accounts receivable and credits checking. This is the bounced check entry that allows you to remove the cash from your checking account and redebit the receivables where it was previously credited. Okay? Then notice it unchecks the original invoices that were paid by the check. That means that reinstates them so their original aging works correctly. Now, there are a few more things that have happened here with this. There's also a brand new invoice that's been entered into the system. That brand new invoice that was put into the system is a $25 invoice to charge the client for the amount of fee that we charge the client when they bounce a check. If I do a transaction journal so we can see the debits and credits behind the transaction, you can see that there was a debit or increase in accounts receivable. There was a credit to an income account called return check. And then you can change that if you want to by changing the item that's automatically created the first time you use the feature. You can redirect it to another account. And sales tax payable obviously has a neither debit nor credit impact. Some people have asked, what if in my state I have to charge sales tax on bounce check charges? That's the case. You simply toggle the taxable status on the invoice. Everything gets recorded out correctly. But that won't be done automatically. You'll have to edit the invoice. Then there's a journal entry that's created by the system, $20 debit to bank service charges, and a $20 credit to the bank account for the fee that was charged by the bank to me. Okay, that's the bank service charges, the bounced check feature. Now let's talk about the income tracker. The income tracker allows you to manage customer transactions and get at a high-level glance what is unbilled, what is unpaid, what is paid, what kind of transactions at a summary level at the top have I been doing with my customer, and how can I collect money faster? So functionally, the income tracker replaces the historical collections center, but as we said in the beginning bullets, you can turn that collection center back on, and if you do, both features can be used by your client. They can go back and forth between the two. All right, so let's take a look at the income tracker. The income tracker you can access from the customer drop-down menu. Choose Income Tracker. Okay, you can see that across the top I've got $48,569 and change in estimates. I've got some sales orders. That tells me the work that I have going on, or the sales that I have made, haven't yet reached their invoice status. Then I have $100,000 in unpaid invoices. Fortunately, I have 0 that are overdue, so this sample data file is not quite reality. I don't know that I've ever had a client who has not had 1 overdue invoice, and I've got 0 paid within the last 30 days. So the power of this is not just that I can see at a snapshot what's going on with my unbilled and unpaid and paid invoices. That's great for quick management of my business. The power is what I could do with the invoices that are open. For example, I can sort by due date, and I can look at those invoices that have been outstanding the longest. Now remember, everything in here is future dated, so the oldest invoice in the system is January the 14th, 2019. And let's just say that that invoice is past due. Okay, so I can grab this one and maybe everything up through the end of October 2019 in batch, and I can take actions. I can batch email all of these customers who have outstanding invoices as of a date and going back to collect, to get the money spinning faster, to reduce the accounts receivable turns and increase the cash flow. So of all the new features in 2014 that you can use to empower your clients to better manage their business, this is the one to start with, because it's proactive in nature. Not just how can I more easily record what has happened, but this one, if used aggressively and used accurately, can actually help your client to increase their cash flow and reduce their bad debt. If I choose a batch email, it's going to create emails with the invoices attached for every single one of those customers up through the end of October. We can just click Send Now, and it will send them all out through whatever email send form preferences I have dictated in my company preferences. I can also take individual actions. If I just want to receive a payment against an invoice, print the invoice on the row, or email individually on the row, I can do that as well. That is one of the featured tools in QuickBooks Online that has now made its way to the desktop, and I'm glad to see it hit here. Now, more about managing emails. That was how I can send batch emails for collections activities, but the general tracking of emails, we can now use templates. We can track what has been sent, when it has been sent in the customer's record, and we have better management of attachments. So let's take a look at that. First, let's look at some of the send form preferences. In the send form preferences, I have the ability to create templates for outbound emails. And if I want to add a template, I can use what's called merged or dynamic text inside the body of the email. So I can create a brand new template for a basic invoice. And in this template, I can merge in, as you can see, is already merged in, the company name, the company telephone and website. First name is to address the person. And then I can insert additional contact fields for any kind of a data record inside that customer's information. So if I insert, for example, the customer's name, but I can also insert a field for the due date. the transaction number, the transaction total. So I can script out an invoice by a specific reference number, by a specific total or due date, and that makes it dynamic, not just for this customer, but for all of the customers that get these individual emails attached to these individual invoices. Also in the Customer Center, I can track when emails were sent to specific customers. So if I sent a customer a collection email on a certain date, this is extremely helpful for me in documenting what touch points I've had. There are legal issues with the collection process. There are procedural issues with the collection process, and they're just customer relationship management issues with that collections process. But it's not just collections. It's any kind of form. We can track when an estimate was sent, when, if the client said they didn't receive it, and that's stopping work or slowing work, when sales orders were sent to the customer. So we can make sure that they received those and they know that their shipments are on the way. That's new in QuickBooks 2014. Alerts and reminders. Now this isn't a new feature. This is something that makes existing features more accessible. So before we had reminders and we had alerts, but they weren't as prevalently displayed in the program. Sometimes you'd have to go to the dashboard in order to get them, or you'd have to open up a certain window in order to see them. So here they're alerts that live always in the interface, because this top menu bar, no matter what you have open, is always going to be displayed. It's an enhancement. It's what Intuit calls a customer delighter. Now let's talk about this bill credit to bill payment stubs issue. So if I have a bill and I have completely paid that bill, 100% of that payment of that bill is from a bill credit. So payment is a little bit of a misnomer because I didn't pay anything. I have a bill and 100% of the bill has been credited off with a bill credit. Many QuickBooks users were saying, we nonetheless want to create a bill payment stub. Even though it's a misnomer, even though the bill payment stub, there was no payment anyway for it to attach to, we still need some kind of a presentable document to give to the vendor so they can see that the balance is now zero. That didn't exist before, but due to an overwhelming amount of customer requests, Intuit has put bills on the bill payment stub, even if there wasn't a bill payment there, so that we can have some kind of a document to give to our vendors. Seems like a small thing, but for a lot of folks, it was a very big pain point and a very welcome addition to QuickBooks Pro 2014. So now whenever you are installing QuickBooks, you have the option during the installation process to enter your user ID and password. Now this is your universal Intuit website user ID that can be used for a wide range of purposes. If you're a Pro Advisor, as I am here, an accounting professional who's enrolled in the Pro Advisor program, your user ID is the one you use to get into your course locker. So if you download the software from your course locker and you install it, you can enter that same user ID and password during the installation process. You can automatically register the software before the installation is even complete. But it does much more than that. What seems like just a small convenience feature is much more powerful. If you think about it brings Intuit up into the industry standard for software like Apple. When you install Apple apps, you do so through your Apple user ID. When you purchase from the Apple iStore, you do it through your Apple ID. Same with Microsoft and Surface. If you have Microsoft 8, as we use in our office, everything's tied in through your Microsoft Live user ID. Therefore, updates, registrations, product validations, all can happen through your internet connection without additional identity validation. Now this can happen with QuickBooks as well, so registrations, reinstallations, any kind of identity verification is baked into this installation of QuickBooks. In QuickBooks 2014, you can now assign reps to job records. Okay, so I can not just have a rep at the customer level, but I can have what is called a job rep. Now in the program, they're still all just called reps or sales reps. But understand if they're attached to a customer, they're a customer rep, and if they're attached to a job, they are a job rep. For people who use job costing in QuickBooks, or even any kind of a contractor, even us as accounting professionals, use jobs for your individual engagements. You can see the importance of having one rep to manage the whole of the customer relationship, that's the customer or client, and reps that manage individual engagements like the tax manager assigned to that year's tax return, or the person in your office who's managing that bookkeeping client, or that bookkeeping engagement, excuse me, or that bookkeeping, or that QuickBooks engagement. So at the engagement level, we have resources that may be different than at the client level. Construction people, contractors, anybody with any kind of a job costed environment often has a similar need. Seems small, very large impact. Okay, then the ability to filter reports by that rep and by job status, also in QuickBooks 2014 now. Now the workaround in the past was to use the job type as the job status, but it was not a clean workaround because people would use different nomenclatures to describe their job types, and it would get a little bit difficult to know if your reports stayed clean, stayed pure as new job types were added. Now the job status is a static list. It is dictated by Intuit. It is always going to be the same across all QuickBooks users, and that allows the reports to be used across all QuickBooks users and to always stay clean because you can't add to the job status list. Then it frees up that job type list to be used for what it's intended for, and that's the type of job. Okay? The left icon bar now has additional options. For example, the ability not just to show bank accounts, but to hide which bank accounts, hide certain bank accounts that show on the menu bar. Now, I want to stress something here. This is not a security feature. In Pro and Premier, you would not use this customization to hide certain bank accounts and think that now you've prohibited a user from seeing those bank accounts. They can always go back and add them later. It's not a security feature. It is a convenience or display feature. If you don't want your clients, QuickBooks users, seeing the bank account balances, in Pro and Premier, you need to take off a setting called Sensitive Financial Reporting, and that will hide this. Okay. In Enterprise Solutions, you can control access bank account by bank account in the user access privileges called roles, and that will also help with this. But if your person already has access to all bank accounts anyway, can see that, but they don't want all of them to show on the icon bar, they can now take certain ones off. Certain ones that may have nothing to do with operating cash, for example, and therefore don't need to be viewed every single day. What if they had 15 bank accounts and only 3 were the operating cash? You can start to see the benefit of that. Now, there's a feature that goes back to the latest releases of QuickBooks 2013, and that's the ability to switch from the monochrome menu bar across the top to the icon backlit color bar, which they added at the tail end of QuickBooks 2013 due to overwhelming customer request. Of course, that's now being featured in 2014 as a default R1 benefit. All right, let's talk about bank feeds. Bank feeds, formerly called online banking, replaces online banking and significantly enhances it, will allow you a much more sophisticated connection between QuickBooks and your banking institutions. Okay, now, because this is sensitive, because we can't just go out to any bank account and start showing you somebody's banking information, we're going to play a video demonstration, and I'm going to provide commentary over the top of that video demonstration. All right, so let's get this queued up. Okay, you can see here in the bank feeds area, we have a list of all of our different bank accounts off to the left, and we have some summary information off to the right. If you look at the list, it shows all of the banking institutions that we have connected through bank feeds. If we click on City Cards, you can see that in the city card balance, there is a balance of $1,510.14, and in QuickBooks, there's a balance of $508.30. Obviously, we have some missing transactions. So we're going to hit the refresh button, and when we do, it's going to tell us exactly how many transactions we've not yet pulled into our QuickBooks register from the bank feeds. Looks like we have 10 transactions waiting to be added to QuickBooks. We click the transaction list, and it starts breaking those out for us. 9 need your review. 1 is subject to some changing rules, and it wants us to review that and enter it per the changing rules. 1 is set to automatically enter. All we have to do is push the button. It's ready to go. Really, both the change and the auto are ready to go. Now, when we look at the ones that need to be reviewed, that's the only thing we need to touch here. We need to do something, take an action. So we're going to select the account that we want this McDonald's hamburger to post to, travel and entertainment meals. We can also choose a class that we want it to post to. Then we work down the list, and we just keep selecting which account. Now, the system is smart. It remembers that this McDonald's went to travel and entertainment meals, and it's going to post to that same account in the future unless we do some kind of an override or we create some kind of a changing rule. You can connect this downloaded as payee to the QuickBooks vendor by using the payee drop-down menu. Now we have the option of selecting actions at the row level individually, like quick add or add more details or match to existing transactions, or we can process transactions in batch. So we're going to select a couple. We're going to say add and approve those. We could have done all of the ones under review, but we've only fixed those first 2 and made them ready to go. And when we do, you can see that 2 transactions have been added, 7 are still in need of review, and 1 is still automatically processed through the change, 1 automatically through the auto. Now, if you want to see those transactions in the register, simply click the number 2 there on those that have been added. It takes you to the register for that bank account. You can review them in the register view, pop right back out, and start processing the next transaction. So you can see that the bank feeds in QuickBooks is a significant improvement, really a reinvention of the online banking that we have enjoyed in the product for a great number of years. All right, now there's a new feature in QuickBooks 2014 called Sort and Resize Billable Time and Costs. Now the billable time and cost window has been around for a long time, but now you can resize and sort the list. Seems like a small thing, but when you have hundreds and hundreds of transactions, in some cases that appear on this list, unbilled time, unbilled expenses, being able to sort them and easily identify which ones you want to pull through to the invoice is very important. Being able to resize the columns when you have very long descriptions to review before they come to the invoice can also be very helpful. But there's something key here that's even more powerful than just a convenience view. The order that the transactions appear here is the order that they will import into the invoice. So now we can sort, for example, by item and have that same sort by item be the basis where things pull through into the invoice transaction. All right. Create email templates and include attachments. We covered this in our demo where we were also covering the income tracker. We just kind of knocked out all of that at one time, but the biggest takeaway is the ability to add dynamic data to your own custom templates, be able to reference those templates when you batch send transactions, or excuse me, batch send emails. Those emails are then tracked in the Customer Center. Now, this is a small delighter. Seems small to us because we know our way around the reports menu with ease, but to our clients, they're just learning QuickBooks or are a little intimidated by the hundreds of reports in the drop-down menu. QuickBooks used a lot of research, a lot of customer feedback to determine which transaction-specific reports they needed to include, which ones are most used when opening up a bill or a check or an invoice, and therefore put those at the customer's fingertips. A lot of times your customers are going to save time with this, but a lot of times they're just going to start using reports they didn't even know the system had, because of the convenience of this reports ribbon. All right, you can now define the width and the height when you print a report in QuickBooks. You can fit the report to 1 page wide, 1 page high. This is a feature that's been in Microsoft Excel and then before Excel back in Lotus 1, 2, 3, going back for what seems like millennia, right? But now we have the ability to do it in QuickBooks, and the same cautions exist here that exist in Excel. Be careful when fitting a report to one page wide and one page tall if there's too much information for your report to remain legible. So, very powerful tool, but with great power comes great responsibility. All right. Copy and paste rows on forms. As I work my way down an invoice now, I can copy one line and paste it into the line below. Now that saves me a lot of entry if I'm selling several widgets, perhaps with different attributes, or selling several widgets at different override prices. Okay? Or sometimes you'll find, especially in a retail environment, people will use the same item and the same description over and over again, append to the description and just change the quantities. For whatever reason, you need to copy the line. Now you can copy the line and insert it down below and more easily, more quickly populate out an invoice, sales order, estimate, credit memo, or sales receipt. Improved Payroll Center. No new features here, so don't be thinking there's something that's been added to Payroll that wasn't there before, but it's a better display of the Payroll Center where pay employees, pay liabilities, and file forms are broken out into separate tabs. By breaking them out into separate tabs, not only is it easier to navigate, but it created more visual real estate for Intuit to add shortcuts and quick views into more areas of the payroll system from the Payroll Center. So it is an enhancement, but it's not a feature enhancement. It's an accessibility and view and management enhancement. There's an improved My Company Information window, where before that window had not been changed since all the way back to QuickBooks, it seems version 5 for Windows 3.1. It was in need of a visual overhaul, and it got one this year. But there's more than just a visual overhaul. It also shows you your license number and your product number. Before, you had to go to the Help drop-down menu for that. And you have the ability to add apps from the Intuit App Center directly within the product from the company information window. You can enable and disable the Collection Center from the Company Preferences, Sales, and Customers area, and that's to turn it back on when it's by default turned off when you upgrade or install 14. By default, it's turned off because it's been replaced by the much more powerful and robust Income Tracker, but we know, Intuit knows, that your clients may have endeared themselves to the Collection Center, and they are giving you a cake-and-eat-it-too moment. If you turn this on, it does not disable the Income Tracker. It makes both enabled in the file. Let's talk about QuickBooks Plus a little bit. There are two ways that your clients can purchase QuickBooks Pro and Premier this year. They can purchase it as a single purchase. They can go down to the store and buy the box. They can download it from the Intuit website, whatever way they buy it. But they can also subscribe to it. They can purchase it monthly in a Plus subscription. Now, they would still download the product as they have done if they did it as a single purchase, but it makes their purchase of the product incremental, which helps folks with cash flow, especially in, say, a 5-user Premier where the price can get a little bit higher. But it does more than just stagger the costs across. It's a little bit more by paying throughout the year, but you get more. You get not only the time value of the money, but more importantly than that, because it's not a lot of money, you get auto upgrades, you get multi-user license support, so you can add licenses throughout the year more easily, and you get QuickBooks Mobile and additional support and so much more. Now, they're going to continue to add to the benefits of Plus over the years. In the past, it's not known if this is going to happen in 14, but in the past, Plus subscribers have been able to get new features that they normally have to wait till version 2015 for. They get some advanced access to some new features as well. No guarantee that's going to happen this year, but it has been the history of the product with those who went with the Premier Accountant Plus. Okay. I want to thank you so much for participating in the new features of QuickBooks 2014 Pro and Premier. As an overall conclusion, I'll say as a practitioner, as an independent instructor, that this is a very exciting release of QuickBooks Desktop, one of the most exciting in years because it allows us to leverage a lot of the flagship crown jewel features of QuickBooks Online, like income tracker and bank feeds, while still enjoying the full power of our QuickBooks desktop software that the client is used to using with the ease of upgrade. Okay, now I do encourage you to watch What's New in QuickBooks 2014 for You, where we cover the new features of QuickBooks Accountant. It's the perfect complement to this Pro and Premier course. Thanks for the investment of your time in learning more about the new features of QuickBooks 2014 Pro and Premier. This has been Joe Woodard presenting, and it ends our presentation. Take care and have a nice day.